With this beautiful thought, let us delve into the fifth day of workshop on teaching Indian knowledge system in higher education, reflection from the classroom by Shri.Shrinath Mohandas, Research Fellow, Foundation for Study of Indian Culture.
Srinath sir.
Um, Namaste all. Hari Om.
Namaste sir.
Yes. So I'll share my screen and then I can start the session. Give me a second. Is my screen visible?
Yes sir. Yes sir. Yes sir. Visible sir. Please check.
Okay. Just a second. The thing is that I'm not able to see any one of you. I can only see my PPT right now. Uh, Let me just see if that can be done. Please give me a second. Sorry, I will just share my screen. Okay, so I think it is visible, right? Okay, Hariom everyone. So there's a slight problem here in the sense that I can't see any one of you. I'm just staring at the at my PPT. So in case there is some issue, please let me know. Um, right. So before I start, let me just thank the organizers for inviting me. I think many of you here are more experienced than I am, it is really a privilege to talk before all of you. A topic which is very close to my heart. So it's a joy to speak about this topic. At the same time, it's a big responsibility. In the next 40 to 45 minutes, uh, what I intend to do is I will share some of the thoughts as a teacher who has taught various IKS courses at different platforms, and also share some of my classroom reflections. Um, and uh, you know, and I'll set that as a stage for the discussion. And maybe after 40 minutes, I hope to interact with all of you with questions and answers and your suggestions and ideas all coming forth. In the meantime, I think there are some audio disturbances I can hear. I request all of you to please switch off your audio. Okay, thank you.
Srinath ji, the PPT is not clear.
Okay.
Yeah. Even now it's looking blurred.
How is it okay right now?
No, 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 no.
Okay. I have to figure
I
out what
think
is exactly.
Sir,
open the
just you
PPT and
share.
share that screen.
Sorry?
You open the PPT and
Yeah.
share that window alone.
Sir, please share me, sir. Sir, please share me the on WhatsApp, sir.
Or you can put it
Okay.
in the WhatsApp, Srinath. We'll try to share it from here.
Okay. So then I'll send it to Madan sir. Just give me a second.
Uh-huh. Yes. Sir, Suresh sir, I sent it to your WhatsApp.
Yeah. So can you please put it in the slide view mode?
Suresh sir, what happened, sir?
Sir, sir, he is open, sir.
Yeah, it's fine. Srinath, is it fine?
Sir, yes, sir, it's fine, sir.
Okay.
Proceed, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. We will not be able to move to the slideshow view, right? I mean, it's okay. I just wanted to ask. That's all.
No, you just tell them, they will move the slide.
Okay, fine. Right. So sorry for that small, delay. Sorry for the inconvenience. So I was telling, what I thought of doing in this particular session was, for the 40 minutes, I will share some of my thoughts on teaching IKS in higher education. First, I will describe the courses on IKS that I have taught at various platforms. After which, I will share my reflections, some of the challenges I faced, and also some of my suggestions, which are the kind of way forward. Uh, after setting that platform, I would request all of you to interact, and maybe we can take the discussion forward. So maybe first 40 minutes I can do this, and after that, I think it can be a discussion mode. If I go to the second slide, yeah, why this talk? Why the previous slide, sir? The previous, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, what is the context of this talk? I don't think we need to discuss so much about the context of this talk. All of us know that. We're all prepared for incorporating IKS in our curriculum. And that has come as a clear mandate from National Education Policy 2020. For the last 5 years, we have been talking about this, even before. And the idea is that it is not just an education reform that we are doing. We're actually looking at a civilizational reset. And that way, the push has become very clear. And what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to integrate Indian knowledge systems at all levels of education, right from the lower levels all the way up to the higher education. And in this talk, we are primarily focusing on the higher education. The important thing is that this is not an ornamental thing or a decoration that we are trying to do. And this need to be told specifically because for a long time we have been doing this decoration, adding some things here and there, just telling that this is all part of Indian culture. But not so much serious scholarship has gone into it. Not that there were not people who invested themselves in serious scholarship. There were numerous people, but it did not find its way into the curriculum. That's what we are talking about. Uh, NEP is very clear that we want to create centers of excellence, and also promote research which are fundamentally from Indian frameworks. So far, to the best of my understanding, that has not really happened. We have a lot of centers of excellence coming up across India, and Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeeth, where I'm a faculty in the School of Ethics, Governance, Culture Systems. We also have a Center for Excellence. But how much of all this effort, all this Center for Excellence across India, work from an Indian framework is still a question. And we also know that we need to build a community-based traditional knowledge ecosystem. So to sum up, what I would say is that IKS is no more in the fringes like it was there 10 years back, maybe, or even 15 years back. Right now, it has come all the way into the classrooms that all of you and I teach. The question is, are we really prepared for it? Do we really see the challenges before us? And what are the ways in which we are going to deal about it? So those are some of the ideas I want to share in this session. Can we go to the next slide, sir? The one below this? Yeah. Right. So this is about the question, what is IKS? I've been trying to navigate this space for last 5 years. I've had the privilege of meeting a lot of learned people working in this space. But one thing I have found is that there is no absolute consensus when it comes to defining IKS. There are many different ways of defining IKS. Many of them have their own challenges, limitations, etc. However, the one that primarily use in my courses, in the courses that I have taught, is coming from Professor B. Mahadevan, and I have found it reasonably a sound definition that I can take up. There are some questions that comes along with it, which I will discuss in this session. But then to start with, I think we can go ahead with this definition of IKS. So, what is IKS? Indian Knowledge Systems. We may say that all the knowledge systems that has developed in this geographical space, and when I say geographical space, I don't mean the political India that we identify today, the geography of the larger Indian civilization, which is more or less attributed to the Indian subcontinent. So we can say that all the knowledge systems that developed in this Indian subcontinent, which is identified as Indian civilizational space, over the thousands of years. How many thousands of years? I don't think we have a clear answer to that, but definitely more than 3,000 years. So knowledge systems that are developed in this part of the world over last many thousands of years, which are continually evolved and developed, and which are also transmitted down the generations. This is a very broad definition of what IKS can be, and I think this is a reasonably good definition that way. Now, one may still ask, so does that mean that all kinds of knowledge traditions that developed in this country can be identified as IKS? What if some of them don't align with some of the philosophical foundations which we think are very important for defining something as IKS? Now, all that questions exist. I will discuss one of such issues that I came across in my class also. But right now, I think this is a good, fair place to start. So as you can see, the brief working definition could be that the knowledge system that evolved over millennia within Indian civilization, preserved, passed down through generation, which includes mathematics, astronomy, medicine, metallurgy, philosophy, education, and you can name any number of knowledge traditions that way. And now, importantly, it provides answers to real life challenges in society and nature. So here we are not talking about some dead scholarship of the past, but which continually makes sense in the present, which is potent enough to solve some of the problems we are facing in the present day society. So that aspect is important. It embodies deep societal wisdom and cultural experience. It can inform modern approaches to education, governance, well-being. It builds a rooted identity and civilizational confidence. This is something I want to talk a little more in the coming slides. It inspires a new paradigm and ways of thinking, which means that the scholarship that we are going to build from today, looking into the future, that scholarship should be inspired from this. And it must be documented to protect traditional knowledge from misuse. So all of these are many aspects, facets of the working definition of IKS. So the idea is, it is not just an ancient knowledge that we are talking about. It is not just a knowledge that some of the ancient people used for their lives in the past we are talking about. Rather, we are talking about a knowledge system that is very contemporary in spirit, which is practical, holistic, and value-laden. So this can be a working definition of IKS with which we can move forward. Now, I need to describe what did I do, what courses I teach. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense when I say that these are my reflections from classroom. So this can be a little boring, but I think I should set the context straight. So what are the courses I taught? Because of which Madan sir has very generously decided to call me to talk to all of you in this session. So I have taken 4 courses which are aligned to Indian knowledge systems. Primarily at Chinmaya Vishwavidyapith, which is where I work as an assistant professor, currently on a sabbatical leave for 3 years. And I also have a experience working with IIM Bangalore in their e-learning platform, which is called IIMBX, which is basically teaching IKS course for the BBA students, BBA program students. Now, I did not teach that course because Professor Mahadevan, Professor Venkatragavan, and Professor Vinayak Rajat Bhatt, they were the course instructors there. I was more a consultant subject matter expert, which means that I would engage with the students through their discussion forums. I used to take live sessions for them, more like question answer sessions and doubt clearing sessions. Also, I was responsible for curating question papers, their end semester assignments, as well as the mid semesters as well. And what are the courses I have taught? So at Chinmaya Vishwavidyapith, I have taught 3 courses. One was called the Introduction to Indian Knowledge Systems. Again, that is the same course I taught. I mean, I was part of the IAMB as well. Then there was another course called Indian Knowledge Systems Self-Unfoldment, which was basically a uh, introduction to Advaita Vedanta, especially from a Swami Chinmayananda perspective. Then there was a third course which I didn't mention here. The third course was called. Okay, so I request all of you to please mute your profiles. Yeah. So the third course I taught was called the Educational Heritage of India, which was basically based on Dharampal's writings on education. As you would all know, like A Beautiful Tree was a major contribution of scholarship. Now, these are the 3 courses I taught at CVV, and 1 course with IMBX I already mentioned. Now, what was common about all these courses? One was on Introduction to IKS, the other was on Introduction to Advaita Vedanta, one of the streams of knowledge within the Darshana traditions, and the other was on Educational Heritage of India. So if you ask me what was common about all these courses, I would say the goal, right? The objectives of these courses were very similar. And what are these objectives? Broadly speaking, to bring awareness into the learners. Awareness about those particular traditions, as well as expose them to some of those ideas. So, sorry, can you please go back to the previous slide? The previous slide, yeah. Yeah. So bring awareness, expose them to these ideas, and very importantly, build a strong identity of identity which is very Indic. I'm not talking about the kind of identity we built through civics. All of us studied civics as a subject when we were in 6th standard or 7th standard, right? Where we are made to think like Indians as citizens of India. Here, the identity is a civilizational identity that we are talking about. So, one of the important goals of these courses were to instill a sense of identity, identification with the Indic civilization. Uh, Identity to the knowledge traditions of the Indic civilization. Then it is supposed to inspire them, and as well as it should also push them into the a kind of an inquiry. The idea is that they should not stop their study there; rather, it should inspire them to learn more, search more about it. So this is a analogy I often give to my students. Now let us say somebody invited us for a dinner, right? So it was let us say it's a buffet system, right? So which means that there are some 40 varieties of food that is available, and you can take whatever you want to how much ever you want. Now, how would you imagine if we are invited to such a place? How would we go about it? Now, I think an intelligent man or a woman should start from the beginning. You know, there is a welcome drink, right? And after that, there will be some starters and all of that. So, ideally, we should take before taking a plate, we should do a full one round of what are the kind of food that are made available there, right? And what is the reason for that? Because let us say all 40 types of food may not be palatable. I mean, it may not suit my taste. Let us say even if it suits my taste, if I'm going to eat all of them, I'm going to end up in hospital the next day. I will have a bad stomach. So there are only certain things I can take. But unless I know what are the variety available, what are the offerings available, how will I make that decision? So the idea is that you go from one end to the other, see what are the things, then come back, take a plate, take only those things that you really want, and take only that much quantity that you can eat and you will not end up wasting. So now what is the imagery here? So I used to tell students that the introduction to Indian knowledge systems is more or less like this. Now here you are being shown what are the different varieties of knowledge traditions that came up in this land. Now it is an exposure to all these all these kinds of knowledge traditions. We need to know a basic we need to have a basic understanding of what they are. Like for example, we should not end up thinking that there is no medicine, there is no, when it comes to health and medicine, there was nothing in India, or all we had was some some people doing some superstitious things. We should know that there is something called Ayurveda, You should know that there are Siddha traditions and so many other, some of them we don't even know. So many traditions. So the idea is that to have a first level of understanding of what are the various domains of knowledge that ancient Indians produced, which continues to live today as living traditions of knowledge. And then what? Once we have that first level of exposure to all of them, then maybe we can choose what is good for me. What are those traditions which are more suited for me, which I can continue. I mean, I can do more research and develop more scholarship on. So, what is IKS one, or what is Introduction to Indian Knowledge Systems? It is just a primer to the various streams of knowledge that are available in this land, or in this which are part of Indian civilization. Having said that, we cannot claim that all knowledge traditions of India are covered in this course. At the end of the day, it's a four credit course. 4 credit course is a 60 hours course. In 4 months or in 3.5 months, you are supposed to complete that course. So therefore, you can't expect every knowledge tradition to find a place there. But the point is, it will give you not an exhaustive, but it gives you a limited, right? It gives you a limited exposure to some of these knowledge traditions. Can we go to that picture slide? The below one, learning objective slide. Yeah, thank you. So this is the book. I think many of you will be already familiar with this book. It's called Introduction to Indian Knowledge System, Concepts and Application by Professor Mahadevan, Professor Vinayak, and Professor Nagendra Pavna. So the course that I will be primarily talking about in this particular session is this course called Indian Knowledge Systems Introduction, and that was based on this particular book. And by the way, this is mandated by AICTE to all engineering colleges across the country, and therefore I think many people will be familiar with this already. Now, what are the learning objectives here? I will come to the modules in a while, but before that, the book is layered at 4 levels, I would say. The contents are placed at 4 levels. One is an introduction to the contents, which is like more foundations of Indian knowledge systems. You can see Veda, Vedanga, Ayurveda, all of them mentioned there. So that is at a very primary level. Then application of traditional knowledge. Now, how do we apply insights of some of these knowledge traditions into our day-to-day lives? Uh, it also involves a critical analysis of texts and practices. I must confess that critical analysis part, if you personally ask me how successful I was doing this critical analysis in my classes, I would say not much. That was also because, because of my own training, as well as the limitations of time and all those things we had to face. And then we also talked about the contemporary relevance, and we also did an evaluation of some of these traditions. So this is what this book actually tries to cover, and this is what was primarily transacted in my classes. Can we come down? Next slide. Yeah. So briefly, when we designed the curriculum, these were the 3 foundational ideas we had. One is it has to be interdisciplinary and inquiry based. I will explain one of those examples in the coming slides. We focused on the lived traditions and its continuity. As earlier itself I mentioned, it was not some knowledge about the past we were talking about. And we also tried to bring a balance between the textual and oral traditions, as well as classical and folk traditions, and also the past and the present. So these were the guiding ideas when we tried to design uh, the philosophy of the curriculum. Coming down to the modules, can we please come down? Yes. So I think I don't need to read all of this, but I think you can look at it, right? So what are the primary content covered in this particular course? Now, there are 8 modules. The first module talks about the Vedic corpus and the Vedanga, its structure, classification, organization, all of those things. We brought up with a discussion on the philosophical systems in module number 2, where Astika and Nastika Darshanas are covered. Some of the key concepts and comparative insights were given. Then there was a module on linguistics, which basically talked about the uniqueness of Sanskrit as a language and how Sanskrit is one of the major contributors to Indian knowledge systems. It is not that Indian knowledge system ends with Sanskritam. There is so much more to it. But then, of course, we cannot deny the fact that Sanskrit has had a major contribution. And here we also talk about the role of Sanskrit in preserving and transmitting knowledge traditions. So this is one area we discuss. Fourth module is about wisdom through ages. It's what it's called, and its logic. So here we bring in Itihasa and Purana, also discussions on Niti Shastra, Subhashita, and also some aspects of some features of Indian logic, which is Nyaya Shastra. Then comes mathematics and astronomy, engineering and technology, town planning administration, health, wellness, and psychology. Now, each of these modules, students are encouraged to reflect on what knowledge is and then how it was built and shared across generations. So this is how it is. From this itself, you know that this is a very ambitious course in the sense that the kind of topics we are covering is from first to last. So that is where I said the buffet example is important. The idea is not to make students experts in all the 8 modules. That is never going to happen. And by the way, the teacher himself is not an all the 8 modules. So how do you expect students to be that? But the idea is to show the breadth, show the perimeter, let me say, the circumference, and make students comfortable with that. If we come down to the next slide. Can we come down to the next slide? Yes. So we have, when the course was designed and it was taught, something we were very, when I say we, I meant the team that designed the course in CVV and the Center for IKS, which was responsible for running these courses, which includes the Dean of Academics. So some of the ideas we were very clear while how to curate the pedagogy of this course was it has to be a dialogic in nature, in the sense that there should be a lot of conversations in the class. It cannot be a one-sided lecture mode of talks, and definitely the faculty is not also I mean, to be very honest, the faculty is also learning with the student, right? Because none of us have studied Indian knowledge systems in our school days or college days, and things like that. So the advantage for the faculty here is that he's exposed to some of these ideas for a long time. Therefore, he has built some scholarship on it, but not exactly in a structured way. Then, of course, with the help of a text that is available right now, he has the advantage of taking notes and things like that. But at the end of the day, he is also learning along with the students. And this has to be clearly communicated with the students as well. So this was never hidden from the students. They were clearly told about these things, which I think made a lot of qualitative difference in the class. So the pedagogy was dialogic in nature to start with. I included a lot of storytelling in my classes. That is primarily because I'm a better storyteller, let us say, than a theoretician, let us say. So that is something I want to play on my strength. But otherwise, also, I think it makes a lot of difference in the learners, because storytelling is a very powerful way of introducing the ideas and making students reflect. And what kind of stories did I tell? I took stories from Itihasa Purana, of course. Some of the folk stories, which even comes from Aitihiyamala and books like that, and also generally, the local laws and stories that are in the collective memory of the community. So these stories were handpicked and brought into the classes. So I would even say every class had a story. A typical class would be 2 hours in length. It's a continuous 2 hours class. However, we used to take 2 breaks in between, 2 breaks of 5 to 10 minutes each. And a story will be, in most of my classes, stories were part of it. Then there was student-led inquiry, where students selected their own topics that they wanted to explore. I cannot say that this happened in every module, but in the course I can say that at least students got 3 chances where they could take a topic of their choice and do their own exploration and come and make a presentation to rest of us in the class. Uh, we used a lot of case studies, real world practitioners, case studies of temples, rituals, crafts, etc. We could also do an exposure visit. So I taught this course for, I taught these courses for 4 semesters. And in the one of the semesters, we got an opportunity to do the exposure visit. It was a 5-day exposure visit we took students, where they had the opportunity to interact with some of those people about whom they studied in the class. Like for example, we talk about the artisans who were part of building some of the greatest temples of not just of India, of this planet, let us say. Uh, their future, their current generations still thrive, and they are still involved in um, architecture. I mean, artisanship. So students got opportunity to meet some of them. So we did site-based immersion. We could witness some of the lived experiences and all of that. Assignments were very focused. It was curated with a lot of attention and thought. Assignments were All assignments were reflection-based assignments and open-ended inquiry. I can say that uh, 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 the idea was to make them explore rather than to give them a mark. That this is correct and this is incorrect. Um, yeah, and also the idea was to encourage learning within the system and not about it. I'll just explain what I meant by this. Many times when we talk about India, just like how we just think about how we learnt about India in a history class. Let us say when we were in 5th standard, 6th standard, all the way to 10th standard. Most of the times, the history of India is talked as a third-person account, right? The teacher and student speak about the history of India as it has got nothing to do with us, right? It is a story that is unfolding in some place, which where we do not have a emotional association at all. So this is something like talking about a thing, right? Now here we deliberately did not want to talk about some knowledge traditions of ancient India. Rather, the idea was to explore the knowledge tradition from within. Now I completely agree that there are a lot of limitation about that when it comes to taking that line of teaching inside a classroom. If it is more open and outside, then it is a little more meaningful. But within the limits of the limitations of the classroom, we try to explore these knowledge traditions as an insider and not exactly as talking about a knowledge tradition. So these are some of the key pedagogical approaches we took. Can we come to the next slide, please? Yes. Um, so I want to. In the previous slides, in all these slides, what I was doing is I was basically describing the courses I taught and what was the nature of these courses. Now let me come to the next segment where let me share 4 classroom moments which I thought were very powerful and in a way that actually I would say that my reflection comes from here. So can you go? Yeah, and not to the reflection. The previous slide. Yes. Can you zoom it a little? Just enough so that I can see it a little better. Yeah. Okay. So in this segment, what I thought of doing is I will just share 4 classroom experiences I had, and these 4 experiences are different in their own ways. Um, so as we were taking students through this 4 credit course, that is 60 hours course, one of the strong responses was that of surprise. Many students were surprised that we are indeed talking about Indian civilization because their image of Indian civilization was not exactly that. To be precise, to take 1 or 2 examples, um, when it comes to architecture in ancient India, when we're talking about the Vastu Vidya, Vastu Shastra traditions of India, we took the examples of this Kailasnatha temple, which is in Ellora, right? And I'm sure that all of us know that it was built 1,200 years, and it is still the world's largest monolith, right? And basically, it was a hill carved into a temple. And the kind of technology that they might have employed on that, we still are not really sure how exactly they did it. And the modern scientists say that if we are to build that kind of a monument today, with all the sophisticated technology available to us right now, we might take 30 to 50 years, 30 to 35 years to build a similar monument. And here we see that monument was built in less than 30 years, and that too with what kind of sophisticated technologies they employed, we are still not sure. So there are a lot of theories, conspiracy theories included, but we didn't go into any of those theory part. We were just presenting before the students a very unique, a very beautiful example of Indian architecture coming down from 1,200 years. So when this particular case study was discussed, students were really surprised because they never thought such a thing could have been possible in Indian civilization. So that was a great, eye opener for many of them, and personally also it was a very fulfilling experience because I was able to make many of them feel that. So there is a lot of things that we need to understand yet. It was also a moment of pride for many of them. Something that we could do these many years back. Another example I would take is this example of rhinoplasty, that is nose reconstruction surgery that we in the sense the Indian civilization did. And this is more recent, like from the 1790s. I'm sure that you know that story where one of the soldiers of Tipu Sultan was, one of the Indian soldiers who worked for British, he was caught by Tipu's army and his nose was mutilated, and then a local surgeon in Mysore actually reconstructed that whole nose for him, and this was witnessed by the British doctors, and they made a lot of noise about it, and they took it to Britain, London, and further studies happened. So many people say that the modern rhinoplasty that we know today, it is inspired from this particular incident which happened in Mysore in 1790s. So when this was another case study that happened in class when we were talking about Indian systems of medicine. It was in a way it was very interesting case study, and it again the same surprise and that feeling of pride and all of that came out through this case study. So these were two stories, examples of surprise that the students went through when they were doing this particular course. Another example of conflict that happened in the class that I want to share here. Uh, so this was still the early days of my teaching this particular course, Introduction to Indian Knowledge Systems. I think it was four periods were over. That is 8 hours of class was over. So after the class, one of the students, he came out and he said, "Sir, can I ask you something?" I said, "Please go ahead." He said, "I hope you will not feel offended." I would say, why should I feel offended? So he said, "Sir, is this a Hindutva project? Is this a saffronization project? Is there a hidden agenda here?" So I was really surprised. I said, "Why would you think like that? I mean, what did I say which conveyed that kind of a meaning to you?" So he said that no, the thing is that all examples you are taking in the class are examples from Hindu religion. Like for example, when I give examples of Kailasnatha temple, at the end of the day, it's a temple. So this particular child is identifying it as a Hindu religious monument, right? When I talk about this nose reconstruction, now I would connect it back to Ayurveda, to Sushrita Samhita. Sushrita is the father of surgery, and this particular child is identifying Ayurveda as a Hindu system of medicine. Right? I mean, similarly, let us say when you talk about Vastu Shastra, and we say that Vastu Shastra comes from the Vedas, right? It is Sthapatya Veda is one of the Upaveda of Artha Shastra, and Vastu Shastra come from Sthapatya Veda. So naturally, this child is saying, so you're talking about knowledge tradition that is coming from Vedas, which for him it is Hindu. So, are you using this class to talk about Hindu knowledge systems, which he thinks is a very communal and saffronization project? So then I said, then what else can I do, right? I mean, when I talk about the Indian knowledge systems and our civilizational knowledge, now these are some of the powerful examples that we can give. So he asked, then can't you also give some examples of Islamic knowledge traditions? Now I said, I'm open to it, but I don't know, right? Let us say, first of all, I don't know such examples that I can quote in a class. And secondly, I will also want to look at if it is indeed fits into the framework of Indian knowledge systems. On the contrary, I brought some examples of Buddhist, the so-called the knowledge traditions that we would normally associate with the Buddhism, Jainism, etc. So, but then at that point of time, I don't think that child was really convinced. But what happened was he continued for the entire course, and by the end of the course, I could actually see a change in him. He actually started understanding when we are talking about Indian knowledge systems and talking about some of those civilizational knowledge ideas. It is not exactly a religious idea that we are talking about, and I think that was a major satisfying moment for me because that child could see through it. And by the way, that child still continues to be in touch with me, and he's doing some research into Indian knowledge systems as well. So I gave an example of surprise from my class, conflict that happened in the class. The conflict not in the sense that we ended up in blows. It is just that he disagreed with some of the thoughts. Then one revelation, and this is a very beautiful story that I will remember for a very, very long time. Uh, there was one of the students. Okay, so I gave an assignment to students where we said um, uh, you can write about the relevance of Indian knowledge systems from the from I mean it is basically IKS in everyday life. That was a theme, IKS in everyday life. So can you describe about some of the IKS, Indian knowledge systems in action, that you can see from your surrounding, your environment? And in that context, this child was narrating an incident. So he says, it's not an incident, it's basically his life story. So he says he did his study till his 12th standard um, in Gulf. So he was an NRI kid. Uh, he belongs to a community of carpenters, right? So we call them Vishwakarma community. So Vishwakarma, is a very important, community in Kerala. I'm sure that that community exists across India as well. However, this particular child somewhere developed a kind of an inferiority complex with his community because he thinks that carpentry is not cool enough, right? I mean, in this age of software engineers and doctors, I mean, carpenters don't come out as very cool people. However, his parents, they are not carpenters. They are working professionals in Gulf, and that's how the child also, was there with them. However, his grandparents, both from the mother's side and the father's side, were carpenters. I mean, they are carpenters. They are still around, so they are carpenters. So he says whenever he goes back home during the annual vacation, you know, he feels a little uncomfortable in that house where carpentry, everything is done. He felt that it is not really tidy, and his grandfather would also be not wearing clothes like them, in the sense that he would be just wearing a banyan and a lungi, which doesn't really come out as really appealing. So the point is, he's telling somewhere he developed a kind of an inferiority complex, and he didn't want to associate with that particular community. But when we were discussing Indian architecture in class and Vastu Shastra and all of that, artisans, the idea of artisans came out very strong. We had some case studies, we had some discussions, etc. And these people actually, I mean, these students actually saw how important artisans were in our community and the kind of social status they had, the kind of skills they had. It was very, very high. And to understand that the carpenters that we talk about today are a branch of that artisanship. I mean, that was quite eye-opening for him. That's what he said. So suddenly he started looking at his own grandfather in a completely different eye. The sense that he started looking at his grandfather as an individual coming in that unbroken tradition of uh, you know carpentry. Basically, they work with wood, right? The others work with stone. Here, you are talking about people working with wood. So that's the only difference. So suddenly, in his mind, this whole community there's a feeling of pride, right? There's a feeling of good pride that associated with it. And he says that, by the way, by the time he was attending these classes in our university, he was staying with his grandparents. Uh, the parents were in Gulf, but he was staying with his grandparents. So he had a lot of conversations with his grandfather after that. And he also said that his entire relationship with his grandfather really transformed, and he also started taking this very seriously. Now I can't say that whether he will take up carpentry as his profession moving forward. That is not the point either. But the point is just to bring back that pride in one's own community. I'm talking about pride in a very good way, right? The sense of belongingness. Now, I never thought when I was teaching Indian knowledge systems, I never thought this would come out as a outcome of the course. So this is one example of a student. There are more students who felt similarly. So I just thought to mention that here. One more powerful example of classroom moment that I experienced is it can be categorized under the head transformation. So generally, we got very good feedback for this IKS course. Even though as a course instructor, I knew that there's a lot of scope for improvement, but students were really giving good feedbacks regarding this. And the best part of it, I felt, was 10% of them. So I taught these courses to 200 students over 4 semesters. And today I know that 21 of them, that is 10% of them, continues to do IKS projects. Some of them under Ministry of Education IKS division, and some of them with other private and national platforms. Now, 21 out of 200 is just 10%. So is that such a big deal? I think it is, because otherwise I think these 10 students or otherwise these 20 students might not have really feel inspired to take up something like this. And by the way, when I say 21, these are the students I'm still in touch with. I'm sure that there will be at least a few more who will be doing such work, but then I might not be aware. So I think this is one example of transformation that happened through the course. So the idea is that when these students took up IKS course, of course it had a mid semester, end semester, and everything. But the idea is that they are taking it forward. They are inspired by the course, and they really want to be contributors to this discipline. I mean, this field of study. So that I consider is a transformation that happened through these classes. Can we come to the next slide, please? Can we move to the next slide? Yeah. So I'm coming to the last 3 slides of my presentation. And I think this is the meat of all this discussion. Till now, I was just describing what happened and sharing some classroom moments. So what are my reflections from this experience I had? I clearly understand that teaching IKS is learning to unlearn, because all of us come with a lot of colonial baggage. We might not know that it is colonial frameworks that is making us look at things as they are, but we look at it as scholarship. Today we understand them as scholarship, but most of them are riddled with academic biases. So while preparing for a class, so let us say if I have to do a 2-hour class, I would at least spend 6 hours preparing for that class. So while preparing for these classes, I could actually see many of the descriptions about India that we have come across through our school system or even university systems, that those are riddled with colonial framings. And how do you know that? You know that because when you start to learn about the same things from people who have lived experiences of those traditions, right? For example, now if I want to know what is Dharma Shastra, right, I can just go to Wikipedia, or I can go to the Encyclopedia of Britannica or wherever. Those are just to start with. Or I can go for some real great scholarly work, papers on Dharma Shastra and things like that. Now, here what do you get? You get a description about what is Dharma Shastra. Now, when I actually ask a person who has studied in the tradition some of those texts of Dharma Shastra, the same thing they talk about completely differently. So this is what I mean by the lived traditions of knowledge, right? So there is one thing to talk about something, and there is another thing to experience that same thing. So here, now I'm not claiming that I could do that with all the modules and knowledge traditions we mentioned here. But as part of preparing for the course, I also got this opportunity to meet and talk to some of those traditional, traditional carriers of that knowledge. And that actually made me realize some of my own biases about these things. I'm not saying I'm out of those biases now, because it is, you can't really say that. But then at least I'm aware that there are chances of biases. So that was a major reflection for me, that we need to be open, and learning to unlearn is a major thing. I'm sure that it is not just about IKS. If you are in the field of knowledge, if you are in the academia, if you are into scholarship, learning to unlearn is important everywhere. But in IKS, I just wanted to highlight it, that's all. Uh, Now, the second point is very important. Uh, IKS is not a heritage education. It is knowledge education. Many people ask, so what do you teach about IKS? Is it the history of India? No. There's another course called history. I mean, if you want to teach the history of India, there is another history course that will do that. Right? You don't need a introduction to Indian knowledge system course to do that. So it is not. So let us say. So if I'm taking the case study of Kailasnatha temple in my class, my intent is not to tell that 1200 years ago there was this kind of a temple that these people constructed. Now I would definitely say that to set the context, but my whole idea is to make them see that that was a technological marvel which should make us ponder over, so what are the technologies that these people used over those times, right? Now what will we achieve of doing that? uh, we That would help us understand that there was technology that was being used during those times, which will give us a insight into the fact that so science and knowledge, science and technology was seriously thought about in this country and seriously developed in this country. So these are some of those what do I say, these are some of those uh, external symbols which make us deduct some of those achievements of ancient India. So the idea is that, so here when you are talking about Kailasnatha temple, the idea is not to talk about Kailasnatha temple, but use Kailasnatha temple as a case study or a platform to go deeper into the science and technology that we could achieve during those times. So the point is, so we are not talking about heritage education here. We are talking about serious knowledge. Uh, yes. Another thing is one must continuously navigate between reverence and critical inquiry. I confess that this is more of my own experience that way. Like for example, and this is more related to the second course that I taught, which is Indian Knowledge Systems Self-Unfoldment, which is an introduction to Advaita Vedanta. Right. I have a tradition. I belong to a tradition, a Guru Shishya Parampara, and we trace back to Adi Shankaracharya. So naturally, the moment I hear Adi Shankaracharya, there's a whole reverence that comes to my mind. Right? I believe Adi Shankara cannot be wrong. I understand, or I take Adi Shankara to be a realized master. Now, this can be a major impediment because when you are talking about Advaita and when you are discussing it in a very critical, objective manner, this particular belief or this particular reverence that I have for my Acharya, in whose tradition I come, can be an impediment. So, in the true traditions of knowledge, we will have to keep those things aside and move ahead. So this is more a personal, uh, uh, insight that I thought is relevant to be shared here. Now, when it comes to the curriculum of these courses, the curriculum is really vast. You saw all the 8 modules we were talking about, right? And it's really ambitious for a 4-credit course. So therefore, we had a problem in the sense of covering it exactly the way we thought we could cover. So it was that way the curriculum was overloaded. And we are talking about 10 diverse disciplines that are being talked about in these 8 modules, like astronomy, architecture, Ayurveda, right? Linguistics. Now, the point is, one teacher cannot teach this. I mean, right? I don't think there could be any professor who will be experts in all 10 domains of knowledge. Now, however, I mean, in spite of knowing, now somebody can ask that in spite of knowing this, why did you design a course like this? So the idea was always, here you are not, here the faculty is not supposed to be expert in astronomy, architecture, Ayurveda, surgery, and all of that. Here the idea is that the faculty should have a reasonable understanding of the varieties available. He should have a breadth of understanding rather than the depth of understanding. That was the idea here. So that is why the course was curated and handed over to the faculty that way. However, while teaching the course, I realized that that may not be the best way to move ahead. Ideally, we would want 10 experts of each of these areas coming and talking to the students. Uh, but then that will come up with its own challenges, like how do you manage the periods? I mean, the scheduling and things like that. And to be very fair, many of the colleges and universities of our country will not have that kind of a faculty pool also. To be very practical about it. But then, yeah, so that is a serious limitation. I don't have an answer for that, but I thought I'll just leave it here. Then when it comes to student engagement and transformation, students often started with exam-focused skeptical views from non-humanities, especially from non-humanities background. So the idea is, this is more my experience with IAMB e-learning platform, where I said no, I was a consultant subject matter expert. So in my live interactions with these kids, the first thing they would ask is, "Sir, tell me, how do I prepare for exam?" They are not interested in, you talk about surgery in ancient India, you talk about some of those fascinating things which are products of Indian knowledge traditions. Their question is, will this question come for exam? How do I prepare for this question? Which of these areas are important that I should look at? Right? So the point is, so long as so my point is, so long as we go with traditional ways of evaluation, which is an end semester exam, which has 100 marks, right? No matter how inspiring we make the class, no matter how inspiring and interesting we make the pedagogy, at the end of the day, students are going to prepare for the exam. And when they are going to do that, naturally, all this curiosity, that will take a backseat. And I think that is a major disappointment, especially while curating and delivering a course like this. Yes, and so that is something I wanted to share. Then storytelling and reflective dialogue I mentioned this, that was part of the class. And I think this really made an impact in students, especially helping them improve their attitudes towards IKS and also encourage their further research involvement. Similarly, the role of lived experiences, about which I already talked about. Um, so we were conscious of trying to draw examples from one's own cultural and familial traditions, like the carpenter student. I mean the student who comes from the carpenter family that I mentioned. We took some similar examples from other traditions also. So we were trying to draw examples that we are familiar with. Um, yeah, and at this point, I already mentioned there's often a dissonance between academic accounts and lived experiences. So that example of Dharma Shastra, which I mentioned, is what I meant here. So these are some of the key reflections. Can we get to the next slide, please? So can we move to the next slide? Yeah. Yes. So challenges faced, I would classify them into 3 categories: institutional challenge, pedagogical challenge, and personal challenge. Um, so so when I say, so here, when I make these slides, I have had a few conversations with my friends working in different institutions across the country who also have similar experience of teaching and learning IKS. So please don't misunderstand these as my personal challenges alone. This comes from a lot of different experiences I have collated here. So one of the challenges people face is lack of clarity among the institutional leadership. Uh, with something as simple as what is IKS? I'm sure that if we go across the country and ask the the senior people, the senior management people of the universities, can you please define IKS? I'm sure that there is no consensus, and this actually percolate all the way down to the classroom that a faculty is engaging in. So I think this leadership, this clarity at the highest level on what we are describing as IKS is very important. Is something that I feel. Then this is a little critical observation, but then there is a tokenism when it comes to implementing IKS in the curriculum. So we will have people saying that 10% of your curriculum should be IKS. Of all the syllabus and curriculums you have in the curricula you have in the university, 10% of it should be embedded with IKS. Now, all of this is good to make a presentation when you are in a meeting, when you are making a presentation to I don't know, maybe Ministry of Education or people like that. All these numbers, you can do all that numbers, but the question is, how do you actually actualize it in your class? Like, for example, let us say I am teaching management. I'm not a management faculty, but let us say I'm teaching management. What does it mean to say that I will bring 10% IKs into it? Does that mean that I will take Indian case studies? I mean, that is absolutely fine. But then I think that clarity has to come right from that institutional level, is what I feel. Then bureaucratic rigidity. This I'm talking within the university ecosystem. Now, let us say one of the friends was sharing the situation where you are teaching IKS, and what are the objectives of your course? You have clearly listed. One of them is to inspire, right? You clearly tell students, and you are yourself clear that you are not going to test the memory of the students in that sense. For example, somebody sitting in my Vastu Shastra class, when I'm taking the case study of, let us say, Kailasnatha temple. Now, I'm not going to ask a question, when was Kailasanatha temple built? Or which king commissioned Kailasanatha temple? I mean, there's no harm in asking that. But the point is, that is not what we were discussing in class. We were talking about the science and technology that was involved in creation of the in creation of that monument, right? So maybe I can ask one mark question or a 2 mark question here or there, but then that should not be the primary focus. So the point is, you taught IKS to a batch of students for 4 months, where you inspired them with case studies, where you inspired them to look at some of these ideas from a different perspectives. And let us say all of them were inspired by it. And finally, you put a 100-mark question paper where you fill it with all these kinds of questions. Now the question is, so why do you want to do that? Don't ask such questions. But the moment you say a 100-mark question, how many questions can you generate? Right? And it cannot be an open-ended question, right? See, I can also create a question paper with 10 questions, all of which are open-ended. But then there's a structure a university expects. There should be 20 MCQs of 40 marks. There should be 6 or 8, what do I say? There should be 8 5-mark questions, which are short answers. And there should be 2 10-mark questions, right? So there's a structure to it. So why do you want to follow that structure? Because all other subjects follow that structure. IKS is only one of the courses here, right? Now you also have physics, a physics course and a chemistry course and all of this going on. So you have to bring uniformity in the institution. So you cannot give a leeway for IKS. And so therefore you say that there is UGC. See, personally, I am not a person who is very familiar with these institutional circulars, etc. I am more inspired by I'm not so inspired by these bureaucratic ideas. But then your controller of examination would come and tell you that this is the way you have to set question paper. And my point is, if I can do that, but if I do that, I'm defeating the purpose of the course. But then the response would be, but then we are bound by the regulations. So I'm sure that there are universities like IIM and where you have more autonomy to do all these things. But when it comes to ordinary colleges, I mean normal colleges and even deemed universities, I don't think how much autonomy they have on all of this. So that's a major challenge I face as a teacher. I mean, and many of my friends say the same, similar things. Um, Curriculum approval processes, interdisciplinary, we face a resistance at various levels. So those are some things I wanted to mention. Now coming to pedagogical challenges. Now I think evaluation is one of the major challenges I faced as a teacher. So let us say there was this batch which I taught, which had 120 students. I was not teaching all 120 students one shot. They are divided into three batches, and I would spend time separately for each of these three batches. But at the end of the day, all the three batches are my own students, so I have to do their evaluation, which means all the assignments that I give, classroom assignments I give, all the mid-semester exams, which are 50-mark exams that I give, and the end semester 100-mark. So there are two mid-semester exams. Now just think about the faculty workload on evaluation. You spend at least 3 weeks on evaluating that. And I can say this with a lot of confidence that I went through every single thing students wrote in the paper. I was not just putting tick, 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 tick and give some marks. I was very serious about evaluation because that is a way in which we can understand how much student has gathered from the classes, right? So it's a feedback to me. And I'm sure that most of the teachers are like that. Very few would just, put tick, tick, tick and go. So the idea is, if that serious evaluation we have to do, then again, that's a major pedagogical challenge with this size of class. Now you can always ask, then why did you have this bigger class? I mean, why can't you appoint 3 teachers for all the 3 batches? There are a lot of practical concerns, which I'm sure that teachers, I mean, faculty and institutional heads would realize. I need not say that here, why it is so. So there is a clear overload in managing things. Then, of course, a lack of prior exposure among students was a major impediment, which creates their biases and all of that. So the need to overcome biases was a major challenge that we faced. When it comes to personal challenge, I was relying heavily on secondary sources, which is basically a scholar's work on the original work, right? Why was that so? Two things. One, that those were easily available to me. But more importantly, even if I get the primary sources, it would be very difficult for me to understand, primarily because of the knowledge. The language. Like for example, many of those primary sources were in Sanskrit or in the local languages. Of course, I can read and write and understand Malayalam very well. But Malayalam that was written 200 years back, I don't even know if I will be able to decipher it correctly. See, now, will all faculty will face these challenges. But the point is, if you are a domain expert, you will not face this challenge, right? Because you would have developed enough scholarship to go back to the primary sources and extract from there. Now here, as I said, we were dealing with 10 different disciplines, from astronomy all the way down to consciousness studies, right? So that also is a reason why we just have to. I just had to focus on secondary sources. And I would say taking a class from secondary sources is not the best, is not the ideal way to go about it. Yes, I found it also, it took me a little time to evolve my own lens of understanding these things, navigating between modern academic training and traditional worldviews. The way forward, yes, this would be my last slide. So let me go through it. So way forward means these are some of my suggestions for teaching and learning IKS courses at university college levels. We should definitely go beyond memory-based testing exams, and we should adopt reflective journals, project-based assessment, oral examination, creative expression, all of that. See, I'm sure that all the faculty here are very much aware of all of these ways and must be doing in their own classes in whatever courses they teach. But then the point is, many of us might be doing this as an extra thing, as an add-on, as an additional thing. Whereas at the end of the day, if we might have to still rely back on that memory-based 100-mark question paper, which follows a certain format, which actually doesn't do so much justice to the objectives of the course. So that is one suggestion. Please use stories from Itihasa Purana, and these are very powerful tools of reflection and value transmission. I'm sure that all of us know about that. So I think our sessions, our IKS sessions, we should fall back upon the Itihasa Purana. The point I want to convey here is many of our people may not really look at Itihasa Purana that way, like a serious knowledge. What do I say? Let us say when you are talking about Tarka Sangraha, which is a text on Nyaya Shastra, right? Or when you are talking about um, 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 let us say some other Surya Siddhanta, which is a text on astronomy. Now, people associate it with as a knowledge tradition. But when it comes to Itihasa Purana, there is always a chance that you might not really identify it as a knowledge tradition, which would be a big mistake to make. So I think we should actively make use of that. Another point, I mentioned the third point here. So I'll go to the empowering faculty part. Uh, I already said no single faculty can do justice to this variety of disciplines that we are talking about. So therefore, we must promote co-teaching models where we blend traditional scholars and modern academics. In one of my astronomy classes, I remember I requested Dr. Ramakrishna Pachitaya, who was trained in Vedanga Jyotisha from a very traditional, you know, Gurukula background. He is also an academic professor. So I invited him to one of my astronomy classes where he actually took that class and he actually showed how it is done in the Gurukulam, and some of those very nuances of things were discussed. So I'm giving you this as an example of how a traditional scholar and an academic can co-teach classes, which I think is important for communicating the right perspectives to the students. Another point is a little critical point. I think we should invest really in a faculty development. I know that this particular set of uh, talks that I'm part of right now, this is one such faculty development model, right? So I'm sure that a lot of such things happen, but sometimes I wonder if we are actually focused on the outcome. Like, for example, typically what happens in many colleges that I have seen, what happens is that, let us say you need to train faculty on IKS. Now, so you will invite an expert to do that, so expert will come. Now, who will be the audience? You will randomly pick some 20, faculty members. Are they interested in that subject? Are they trained in that subject? Do they really want to build scholarships in that subject? Many of them may not, right? So it is more coming as a institutional requirement that these many people have to be trained. Now, my question is, can we call that faculty development? I don't think we can call that faculty development, right? We have to invest in people. That's what I'm trying to say. So we have to invest in faculty, which means what? We have to identify interest, we have to identify talent, we have to encourage and motivate them, and then such people should be trained, right? This is something all of us know. In many schools, I'm talking about schools, not colleges. In many schools, there will be this subject called value education. These days, we also have knowledge traditions practices of India, KTPI, which is the primer to IKS, right? Who teaches KTPI value education in many of our schools? It is very sad to say that that workload is given to a music teacher, or that workload is given to a Malayalam teacher or a language teacher. What is the logic here? The logic is that they may have less, what do I say, academic hours to teach. So this is a kind of workload management that we do, right? So it's a very wise thing, smart thing to do. But the question is, what about the subject? What about the students? Right? So here, when we are talking about faculty development, I think we should be more meaningful, outcome based. Um, uh, I'm sure that many of us do this. Many of the universities, colleges, institutions do this. But then there are also significant set of colleges which may not be doing it this way. So that is another suggestion I wanted to make. So the idea is, let us invest in our people. Let us invest in our faculty. When I was talking about this to somebody, that somebody who is part of a institutional bureaucracy, that person point blank asked me, okay, we invested in this faculty. Can you guarantee that this faculty will not shift to, I mean, go out to another university if they offer better. I mean, definitely you can't think like that, while giving faculty, uh, uh, what do I say, faculty training. Um, I need to say something. I don't know how many of you are really liking the way I speak, because these are very critical observations that way, and many of you will be part of institutions at various hierarchical levels. But my objective is only to be honest. So I really hope I am not offending any one of you. But then, since you invited me, I think it's my responsibility to share my thoughts honestly. Right. So yes, institutional suggestion, I think I can say that we should support curriculum design with more authentic materials, making it available, etc. Align assessment with unique nature of IKS and all of that. Yeah, the last is also invite educators, researchers, which I think I already mentioned. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. This would be the last one. Can we move to the next slide? Can you hear me? Yeah, so can we move to the next slide, please?
Suresh sir, can you move to the next slide? I don't know whether he's able to hear. Suresh sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
Sorry, the one before this. Suresh sir, can you hear me? The the slide before this I was talking. Oh, sorry, no, sorry. This is the slide. Yeah, sorry, I made a mistake. Yeah, the slide is right. So this is a takeaway message from my session that I wanted to communicate. Um, so when I look at it, teaching IKS as a faculty in a university, in a college, uh, it is a civilizational responsibility, because at the end of the day, we started by saying that NEP 2020 wants us to integrate IKS because it's a civilizational reset. It is not just an education reform we are talking about. And therefore, this has to be a civilizational responsibility for us. And I should also, from my experience, I also feel that it's an academic experiment, because we are still trying to see how that integration really happens on the ground. Uh, but we might make mistakes. I have made mistakes. All of us will make mistakes. But then that should not stop us from continuously experimenting and coming out with the right frame of work. This is a question that I want to leave all of us with. Many of you, some of you at least, will be familiar with this question, but I think it is important that we ask ourselves this question. Is Indian knowledge systems merely a record of Indian contributions to universal fields like mathematics, astronomy, and medicine? Or does it represent a fundamentally distinct way of knowing and engaging with the world? I hope we are clear about that question, right? Is IKS all about listing down the achievements of ancient India in various streams of knowledge? Or is there something which is fundamentally Indian way of thinking and engaging with the world? What exactly is IKS that way, right? So that is the question. If it's just about contributions, so if you say the first one, right? If it is just about contributions, Indian contributions to various knowledge traditions, then if it is just about contributions, then every great civilization, the Greeks, the Mesopotamians, Chinese, Egyptians, Mayans, all of them have done that. Now, we might respond by asserting that India was a pioneer and that much of the knowledge originated here. I don't know if that is true or not. It might be true. I'm willing to consider it as a very fair thing to say. We might be the pioneers of many of these knowledge streams of knowledge. Okay, but then what? Even if we agree that, then what? Right? Where does that leave us today? Right? And if we stop with that, IKS risk becoming just a cultural pride project. And I think in many ways it has become that. Um, some of our universities and colleges, which stands up for Indian knowledge systems, now it looks more like a cultural pride project. While that may be necessary starting point, I completely agree. I mean, I told, right, one of the objectives of our courses were to instill pride in people, pride for the cultural, I mean, and civilizational identity of India. So while this may be a necessary starting point, it cannot be the end in itself, right? So we are talking about serious knowledge traditions, and knowledge traditions have to be understood as knowledge traditions, and it should have a value today, and we should continue the research in those traditions today. So I leave with this quote of Dharampal, the brilliant mind. So he says, so I'm paraphrasing here. This is not exactly a quotation of his. This is more my paraphrasing his paragraph. So the idea is the India of today must connect with India that existed before colonialism, not as a nostalgia, but as continuity. So I think this is a very powerful message coming from Dharampal when you read his works. With that, I conclude my talk. I mean, I thought of doing it only for 45 minutes, but I think exceeded that time. And now I'm open for all questions and interactions. I'll be most happy. And it need not be a question always. It can be your suggestion, your response to some of the, you know, offensive things that I said. I'll give a patient hearing to that. Thank you. I can see some hand going up, right?
Yes, please, you can ask.
K.S.Rangasamy, thank you for your beautiful session. And the last part which you said, I'd like to add something to that. What's so unique regarding India when you are comparing it with the similar ancient traditions of Mesopotamia or Greece or South America? I feel there is a wholesome approach in everything we do. So when you go for architecture, what the cosmos has, they say in Tamil, they say Chitrambalam. What
Yeah.
forces apply for 1 cubic meter, cubic centimeter applies for the whole of the Earth. The same directional forces, the same tilt, the same gravitational forces all apply universally. So that's why they say what is in the microcosm is also in the macrocosm. And this central common thread runs across, whether it's medicine, whether it's architecture.
Mm.
And people see living and non-living things as an integrated whole. So that's probably where we stand different. And if you, yoga is related to Ayurveda, Ayurveda is related to astrology. And
Mm.
astrologically, you can also have a diagnosis of
Yeah.
probability of diseases. So it's a wholesome cycle. I mean, that's one point which I'd like to add. And another aspect, two, three aspects which you discussed. I just wanted to know from your side regarding the breadth and depth of the topics which you said. The challenge is that you need to attend to 10 different areas, and each requires a complete profession or life dedication on itself. So, how do you handle this? So, you also said that there could be 10 different people, and there are people like Professor Hegde who have been specializing in their own streams of
Mm.
integration of IKS. Uh, and hasn't the developments in MOOC, massive open online courses, and other aspects
Yeah.
given a leeway or a advantage onto this, or over the resource sharing and accessibility and democratization of learning? Do you still feel that there is a lot? Yeah, there is a lot to go, but can't that be like what Rashmivat is doing right now?
Mm.
Isn't that something that we are also seeing as a transformation? Just wanted your inputs.
Sir, I think that's a great initiative, and personally, I've been benefiting from that as well, the MOOC and the online courses. But I still think that when we engage with the online learning resource also, it is still that engagement that is a very surface level, in the sense that I can actually take down notes, some of those ideas. But when you actually, my experience is that when I actually take that in a classroom, now I need a little more deeper understanding and engagement with that. Otherwise, it almost end up like instead of me listening to that and preparing notes, I can actually show them directly that. In fact, many faculty do that. I know faculty, like for example, they are the course instructor of that particular course, but what they do is they actually ask students to do Swayam course or MOOC course. Now, is that a wrong thing to do? I don't think it is a wrong thing to do. But then the point is the faculty is supposed to bring depth into this whole interaction. And many of them, including myself, on various topics, don't feel confident enough to do that. So at the end of the day, long-term investment in the faculty should be the right way forward, is what I think. But then definitely, this has really revolutionized the space. At least at the first level, at the basic level, I think a lot of things have improved. That's my thought.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. And another aspect which you touched upon is the traditional exam approach. When you have a score at the end of the semester, probably most of the high performing students will be focused on that and not on that learning experience as such. So the problem is rather than exploration, their focus shifts to the exam. And so if we are able to devise something that incentivize exploration, that's where the probably a capstone project or something like
Yes.
that should be
Yes.
given a good weightage, so that they come up with something very ingenious
Correct.
to them.
Sir, I just
And
wanted to add, sorry, I just wanted to add one point here. When you mentioned here, I have seen an IKS question paper. I don't know, of course, I will not tell the college, etc. But I've seen a IKS question paper where the question was, what is the height of the, what is that, that single piece of stone that was kept on Tanjavur temple? Now,
Brihadishwara.
Abrahadeshwara temple, yeah. Now the question is, okay, I mean, is that such an important? Is that what you want to actually the students to answer? I mean, so this is a fundamental problem there. I'm not saying all papers are like that, but then many of them end up doing that.
Srinath, shall I add something to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, you have told about one question paper. I have much experience about how people value education. You know, value education is being taught and they are graded. And invariably, any student will get 90 and above in that course, or he will get an A grade.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, if you see, it will be a distinct contrary. You will be teaching about honesty and he will be a criminal the other side. So where are these marks going to? I don't know. In one of the sessions at NITTER in Chennai, I posed this question to this Shri Ravi Shankar ji, because they conceived this course long back in their ashram. So when he came for an interaction, I asked him, why would the teachers grade this course? It has to be more knowledge transfer rather than grading them. So I feel as a part, similarly, the IKS also, that I don't think it should be a grading system. Rather than you should make the students understand, you should make the students comprehend what were there in our ancient past and how this can be used now to address 21st century challenges, rather than grading them. This fellow will get A grade, A plus grade in that particular course, but then the contrary will be, he will be an utter failure in so many other aspects. So this disconnect is always there. So I think we should remove this mark-based assessment and then see a holistic perspective, like bring some components of the Gurukula system which had debate, which had so many other components, and see if that can be used as a pedagogy, as a novel pedagogy to teach IKS. So this is my observation for the past, maybe I've been I've been into this value education course for more than 20-25 years. I have been as a member of the book framing committee and so on and so forth. But then I get bucked up when the students are graded on this. I've seen so many examples of students who are not worth for the grade. So
Yeah.
where are we as teachers or as academicians? Where are we trying to create this balance, and what are we trying to empower the next generation is a big question that lies before every one of us. And
Sir, on that note, I have also had friends, faculty friends telling that there would be instructions from the top
yeah,
level
that's also
that
there.
that
Give them a start. Nobody should fail.
Nobody should fail.
Nobody
Right?
should fail. Yeah.
What do you
So
say?
ultimately, he will fail in his life. That's a different story. Yes.
Yes. Sorry, sir. I think Gokul sir was telling something when I
Yeah, please.
interrupted.
The third part was somewhere close, and you also mentioned that when you come from a specific background, or you have a paradigm about the gurus or the earlier mentioned topics, so you have a huge reverence for certain things which are told, and you don't take your critical mind to have inquisitive criticality over that. And probably the old system is all about that. I mean, be it Buddha and Buddha's followers or Shankaracharya or any other tradition, our system was a pluralistic system wherein you had, when one's on a spiritual path, you never take a sword against him. First thing. Second thing is that the whole tradition was based on samvada vivada. If on a debate, on discussion, on logical give and take, if you are able to convince that other person, he becomes your sishya, or you become his sishya. Simple as that. So when that approach comes into this, also you have every right to question
Yeah.
and think about that with reservations, saying that if this has been practiced in that particular time, probably there should be I mean, these people are not idiots, at least. So there should be some minute iota of possibility that there was something right in that. For a small example, during the Parashara Smriti, it was considered sin to touch the chandalas or the people who burn the bodies and then come to home and touch something. So we are talking about a tradition which integrated many aspects. So when it is about germ theory, until Second World War, the modern medicine didn't know why people are dying from small wounds comparative to huge ammunitions or huge wounds. So the issue is that the germ theory was long back inbuilt into this, in this particular aspect. Yes, it was misused a lot later, but there would be an iota of right element in that. Today we need to know, in today's society where we have soaps, sanitizers and everything, whether that is relevant or not, or we
Correct.
can ensure that a system can come there to replace it. That's it. So that's how we need to think about it, rather than being a critical mind on and rubbishing things.
Yes, yes, I do agree.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
the
you, sir.
opportunity to add upon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I think there's one more hand, Dr. Heetal Jani. Do you like to ask any question?
Yes, sir. Good evening, one and all. Thank you so much, first of all, to the sir, Nath sir, for imparting this knowledge in the IKS, and thank you so much to the organizing committee also to give a chance to listen the experts who are having ample of knowledge in the IKS. Sir, my question is, though you have mentioned in your presentation certain teaching learning methods that we can use to teach students in the IKS. But, sir, can we, uh, in one or another way, in either of the subjects we are teaching, basically, I am a principal of BBA course in one of the university in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. And we are also following new education policy. According to that, we have to give IKS as one of the subjects. And basically, being a Brahmin, I am much inclined towards IKS domain and having good interest in that also. So मेरा ये मानना है sir, what I believe that in all of the subjects in one or another way we can have a touch, we can give a touch of IKS. Whether we are teaching mathematics, we are having Vedic mathematics for that. If we are teaching the basics of organizations, or somewhere like strategic management, we are having Siddhanta of Advaita Vedanta, and something like one of my PhD students working on that. So, what pedagogy we should use, because today's generation now they are not having much inclination towards all these traditional things. Universal human values is also one of the subject that have been offered by AICTE, that you need to give a bridge course in universal human values. And I observed last year that when we offered this course to students, neither of them are literally interested to learn the things. So what, in which interesting way we can imbibe these knowledge among the students, or how can we give touch of this IKS in the subjects that we are teaching? If you can guide in one or another way in this thing, that will be very much helpful to us, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Hedelman. So to answer this, I can only again the whole talk that I gave is a reflection. So here also I can reflect. Um, my reflection would be, now pedagogy will change from subject to subject, right? So there is a specific pedagogic method that we need to employ for mathematics. So if you're integrating IKs in mathematics, there will be a certain way of doing it. When you're talking about Ramayana Mahabharata being communicated as wisdom through ages, then there's another whole different pedagogy coming. So at one level, I think it is for the individual faculty to discover what would be the right pedagogic method suited for that particular subject when they are trying to do IKS. So I think that I think as faculty has to decide. So that is one thing. Second thing I want to say is, generally, I think across subjects, what works is this something which I already mentioned, right? Now, dialogic learning, which is dialogic learning, which is basically a conversation-based approach in class. Now, the idea is many of our faculty, no matter how much we talk about student-based learning and child-centered learning and all, we still follow the same chalk and talk method. So I think having conversations in the class is valuable for any teacher, any subject specific teacher. So that would be what we call as dialogic learning. Then one of the things I mentioned already was bringing stories into classes is a very powerful way. Now I don't know how much of this would be useful for a mathematics teacher or a, let us say, a teacher teaching some of the science subjects, but I work mainly in social sciences. And when I was teaching this IKS1 courses, I was looking at it as a faculty coming from the social sciences background. So therefore, storytelling I found to be very, very useful. So that is the second pedagogic suggestion I can make. Then in this day and age, I think student-led inquiry will matter, which means simply asking students, to select a topic for themselves and let them explore that. Let them do their own exploration, and maybe 2-3 classes later, they come to class and the teacher leads a discussion around that. Now, this is a little time consuming thing. So again, if we are strictly talking about the number of class hours, syllabus has to be completed within these many days. There is a struggle around it. But I think if it is done pretty consciously, we can manage that. That is what I think. Similarly, I can talk about case studies, exposure visits, some of the things I already mentioned. Now, keeping all of this aside, I think this is what I would say. If the faculty is inspired, the student will be inspired. If the faculty doesn't have inspiration for what he is teaching, no matter what thing you employ, student will not. You won't get through it. I'm not saying this as a credit to myself, but to be very honest, I am proud that I'm really inspired about what I'm teaching. And that shows in my classes, and my student actually can. So see, let us say, many of our people say, I don't like history. or let us say I don't like mathematics when in school, right? I don't like physics. If you actually look at it, they actually did not like that teacher, not the subject. And ask students which subject did you like the best, they'll say same subjects. They will say why, because I like that teacher. It is a teacher who makes the change. So I think, therefore, at the end of the day, as a principal, I would request you to, inspire your faculty to become inspiring to their students. That will solve the problem for us. That's what I think. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, if you can suggest some books to me, which I can suggest to my librarian also, that for specifically IKS, these are certain books that are very much helpful and we should possess that.
Ma'am, I might have a list of those books. I can actually share. It is in my WhatsApp. I can't access right now, but I can share that with Madan sir. And Madan, if I request Madan sir to share with the group, it will be nice.
Sure. I will do that, Srinath. I'll do that.
That would be very much helpful. Thank you so much, sir. It was really a wonderful session. Thank you to you as well as Madan sir both. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Madan sir.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
today I received from Karpagam University
Okay.
the book of an introduction to Saiva hormones, Indian for
I
Indian
have
knowledge.
seen this book.
Yeah, today. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I have
Today I
seen
received,
this.
sir. Yes, sir.
I think you can put it in the group, sir.
Yes, sir. Sure,
If
sir.
somebody is interested, they can buy it.
Download it, sir.
Yeah, they can download it. Yeah.
Yes, sure, sir. Sir, anything? Any questions? Dear participants?
If there are no questions, I think we can close the session.
Okay, sir. Yeah, no. Yeah, thank you, Shri.Shrinath, sir. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Madan, sir.
Thank you so
Shall
much.
we
Srinath was wonderful,
Thank you, sir.
Srinath. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you,
inviting
sir.
me.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Sir, all are
Any information, sir, to be given?
nothing, sir. Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, shall we close it, sir? Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Shri.Shrinath, sir. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.